สวัสดีและยินดีต้อนรับสู่ปีเตอร์นิวานยูนวันนี้เราจะพูดถึงการเรียนภาษาไทย Well, I just finished my first 6 months of taking Thai here in Thailand. I went to school for 4 hours a day, and I'm here to tell you just how easy it is to learn Thai. Gan Pasa Thai Mi Chai Rung Ngai. Okay, so where to start? I decided to go to Easy ABC Language School. It's located here on the Pattaya Road, right by Pattaya Road. Maybe Editor Pete could figure out how to put a map up over here. I looked at a couple different schools to go to, and honestly, the main reason I picked Easy ABC was because of its location. It's the only school that's really within walking distance to my place. Another reason I picked Easy ABC is because I had a personal recommendation for it. I have a buddy here in Thailand who's been living here for 10 years on and off. He's been going to Easy ABC just periodically and joining the intermediate class. There's probably cheaper schools out there. In fact, I'm sure there is, but the convenience of having it being walking distance to me was really the only selling point I needed. I really don't have anything negative to say at all about the school. It's very professionally run. The classrooms were really nice, and they have a education visa program for anybody that's going to school for that. I stayed with the same teacher for the entire 6 months, but I did sit in a couple other classes, and I do have some friends that were attending different beginning classes. So I could tell you from experience that different teachers there teach at different rates of speed. I absolutely loved our teacher. Crew Knock was amazing. She was very well organized. We had handouts almost every day. One thing to know, at least with my experience in the school, and I bet with most of the other classes as well, is that the pacing is pretty fast. If you want to keep up with the class and especially get as much out of it as you can, you definitely need to do your own work at home. The biggest thing that was kind of difficult to keep up with was the amount of vocabulary that we got. Now, officially on handouts, we probably only got maybe 20 or 30 words a week, but unofficially, we were given words constantly. You know, if somebody would ask about a word, or we would just go off in a tangent. There are plenty of times when we got 50 words in a week, 60, 70. I think there was a few weeks when we got close to 100 words. Obviously, getting that much vocabulary is not going to be easy to keep up with, and nobody in the class kept up with all of it. The structure of the class was what I would think is typical in a Thai class. We started off learning just some basic conversation stuff, and then we got into some reading and some writing. At the end of the 6 months, I found myself with a good grasp of the alphabet as a whole, although I'm still not great with most of the vowels. And I would say I could phonetically read most Thai to probably an 80 or 90% success rate, but I sure won't understand what I'm reading. The tuition at Easy ABC drops less and less per class the more that you prepay for. I prepaid for a 6-month program, and that was 29,000 baht. I believe that tuition includes all of the visa fees and whatnot. I'm not really sure. I'll ask and put any notes down here. So let's talk about some of the differences in Thai compared to English. I'd say the biggest difference is that it's a tonal language. What that basically means is there's certain ways you kind of sing the different sounds. And this means that the exact same group of letters would have a different sound depending on the tone. There's 5 different tones. There's a rising, there's a falling, there's a high, there's a low, and there's a flat tone. And because of that, that means words like my, all have a different meaning. The tones can be very challenging, and if you're getting the tone wrong, it can completely change the meaning of a sentence. Another big difference is the amount of consonants in the alphabet. There's 44 consonants in the Thai language. A lot of them are repeated sounds, but they have different ones to reflect the different tones in the language. One thing that I think is really cool about the consonants in the alphabet is each one's name also gives an example word that that consonant is used in. It would be like learning English saying A apple, B baseball, C, cat. The first letter in the Thai alphabet is gai, and gai means chicken. This means every time you learn a consonant, you also learn a word. So just by learning the alphabet, you're getting 44 words in your vocabulary. Another key difference is the vowels. Every vowel has a dedicated sound. It's not like in English where you only have 5 vowels, but A's got like 6 different sounds. Now, this could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing. The bad side of it is you have to learn 20 something different vowels, and honestly some of them are pretty easy to confuse with other ones. But what the good side is you never mispronounce vowels if you actually know them. You're not going to get different than a, different than just because they're all written with an a. In Pattaya, each one of those is written differently. The next big difference I would say is word order. And I think this is common with a lot of languages that aren't English. I think the Thai word order often follows the same rules as Spanish does. So instead of an adjective going before a noun, it goes after the noun. If I was going to say red car, I would say rat si deng, which translates to car red. The order could get even more complicated than that. That's just one of the few rules that I got a good grasp on. Often when I put together sentences of more than 5 or 6 words, I've got something wrong in the order, but at least I'm understood most of the time. The last big difference I wanted to mention is there's often no plural tense for words, and there's often no like past tense or future tense for words. In a lot of ways, these grammatical and structural rules for Thai make the language a lot easier to learn. Not having to learn different rules for plurals, and especially for past tense, present tense, and future tense, really simplify on the amount of things you've got to learn. Google Translate is great, but it does struggle sometimes to keep up with Thai. Knowing some of the grammatical rules actually makes using Google Translate easier as well. For example, you're going to see the lack of having past tense and present tense show up when you are texting your Thai girlfriend about going to the movies. Her texts are very likely to say something about how you two have watched the movie, even though you haven't watched the movie yet. It's just because it doesn't understand the tense and maybe some other word keyed off Google Translate to put an ED on the end of it. There's other things about understanding the language that'll help with Google Translate as well, like knowing that there's only one word for boyfriend and girlfriend. So if a Thai person's using Google Translate, they're just going to say phane. Phane means both boyfriend and girlfriend, and their phone's just going to decide which one to use. Another difference is the word for I or me is different for men than it is for women. For men, it's pom, but for women, it's chan. And when I use Google Translate, my phone just assumes I'm a woman, so it's always telling me chan. So those are most of the big differences that I discovered in Thai language compared to English. Now let's talk about what I found to be the most challenging. Number one, again, the tones. It's just not natural, and I'm already slowed down enough trying to just translate words and think about sentence structure. The system for being able to phonetically read tones is also, to me at least, very abstract. I feel like if they just started over, they can make the language a lot simpler just by changing a few ways it's written. I will say I feel like some of these challenges that I have with the tones also comes from how quickly I learned the alphabet, and by not learning everything about each consonant that I should. Each consonant belongs to one of 3 different classes, and each class have different rules as far as what tone you use and when. I really haven't memorized it that well, so it takes a long time if I'm reading to figure out what a tone is. And honestly, I'm usually just wrong. Another challenge is the use of different consonant clusters than we're used to. There's 3 consonant sounds I can think of off the top of my head that are completely different. There might be more. Honestly, most of them aren't that hard. There's a DT, a da sound. There's a BP sound, like blah, blah. The hard one for me though is the NG, especially at the beginning of a word. The best advice I've seen on the NG sound is to pronounce it as the NG in singer. My favorite NG word is ngai, which means easy, and to say easy in Thai, my ngai. My friend poked fun at me a lot about the way I said ngai, and I'm probably saying it wrong still. I'd say the biggest challenge I have though learning Thai is hands down, I just cannot listen to it well. Even with a sentence with all words I know, when I hear it, just something clicks off in my brain and I can't process it. There's been several times when I've had a Thai person try to show me how two similar sounding words are different, and I just hear them saying the same word over and over again. But that probably happens in all languages. My Thai friend the other day was asking me what the difference between never and neighbor was because they sounded exactly the same to her. I've been saying for months now, I really need to listen to half an hour of Thai every day, and I think I'll start making more breakthroughs. But the whole language isn't that challenging. Okay, I'm lying. It is not easy to learn Thai. The language is very difficult, at least for me personally. Wow, this video is 10 minutes long already, and there's so much more I wanted to talk about. Please join me next week when I talk about my skill level with the Thai language after taking 6 months of classes, share some tips I've learned for speaking the language more clearly, and talk about my plans to further learn the language. As always, this is Pete on Retreat. ผมอยากจะขอบคุณที่รับชมและผมหวังว่าคุณจะอยู่ที่นี่